Okay, good morning. My name is Janae Chandler. I get the privilege of serving as director for the Florida Caribbean Lewis Stokes Regional Center of Excellence. And we are excited to have you a part of our cultural competency and inclusion program training series that we're offering this fall. I just want to briefly just let you know what we're going to do today. We are going to basically let you know more about the center, who we are and what we do. I will also introduce Dr. Hernandez, who will then provide information about what to expect during the training series. And so the Florida Caribbean Lewis Stokes Regional Center of Excellence is one of 6 original regional centers of excellence that were funded by the National Science Foundation, and the NSF Includes National Network in fall of 2018. We are a collaborative partnership with Santa Fe College and the University of the Virgin Islands. I am also proud to say that Santa Fe College is the only public 2-year state or community college that is lead on a regional center of excellence across the nation. And so I am excited about that distinction. We are building upon the work of the University of Virgin Islands, their HBCU Upwork, which is also a broadening participation program. You may be familiar with the Lewis Stokes Alliances at your campuses. What distinguishes the Regional Centers of Excellence from the LSAMs are that we're charged with conducting STEM intervention research and faculty development that promotes student success and in broadening participation in STEM. And then last but not least, we are also responsible for making sure that we broadly disseminate the knowledge that we generate in STEM networks and in other disciplines. So for those who may not be in STEM per se, you are welcome to attend our trainings. We welcome you to participate in our research activities because we are interested in promoting student success across minority participations in all disciplines. I want to just quickly tell you about our team and who we are. Our principal investigator, Dr. Stephanie Washu. She is the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Santa Fe College in Gainesville, Florida. We have our co-PI, Dr. Camille McHale, who is the provost at the University of the Virgin Islands. I also have a fabulous co-director, Dr. LaWanda Cummins, who's based at the University of the Virgin Islands. And we have Miss Ada Lang, who is our program assistant. A lot of you may have communicated with Ada via email or phone, and she provides a lot of technical assistance for us. So you may be very familiar with Ada, but I'm grateful for the team that we have. We've been able to partner across waters and regions to get this work done. And so I'm excited to have them a part of this group. And last but not least, I want to introduce our partner institutions. So in addition to Santa Fe College and the University of the Virgin Islands, we get to conduct our research and faculty trainings at Bethune-Cookman University, Alabama State, Valencia College, Tuskegee, Tallahassee Community College. So we are really excited that we get this opportunity to work with community colleges and HBCUs in this southern region. And so we are excited to have you and to expand this work. And so without further ado, I want to introduce our training facilitator, Dr. Miguel Hernandez, who serves as the Associate Dean of Students at the University of California, Irvine. Prior to his arrival at UCI, he was the Associate Director for the Center of Leadership and Social Change at Florida State University, where he led a tremendous amount of work around diversity and leadership development, not just at Florida State University, but for national organizations and companies. And so we're excited to have his wealth of knowledge and experience and to bring to this training. And so I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Hernandez.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to connect with each of you through this program. I want to take just a second to thank the Florida Caribbean Lewis Stokes Regional Center for Excellence, and specifically Dr. Chandler and Dr. Cummings for their invitation and opportunity to participate with each of you in some what I hope to be excellent dialogue and thought around cultural competency and inclusion. One of the pieces that I wanted to just share briefly with you all is that I've been engaging in this area of research and practice since about 2003, really trying to focus on this idea of how to develop strategies and explore the need for administrators, staff, and faculty to continue growing in our cultural competence and inclusion. And this work really came from identifying a need to expand what we have inherited in higher education, in our academic spaces and in our professional offices, in terms of practice and scholarship, really looking at expanding that to make sure that the diverse populations that we get to work with as colleagues, that we get to interact with in our research, in communities, and also the students that are engaging with us on our campuses across the country are really represented in what we are presenting to them in terms of scholarship and practice. And so I'm looking forward to continuing this work with each of you throughout our time together. Something that I think is very important in my introduction to you is to share a few of the identities that form or shape me and my practice. I call this giving you insight into my come from place, where I come from, what motivates me, what influences me. And so a variety of different social identities that truly shape and impact me on a daily basis include being of Puerto Rican descent. I was born on the island. My family is from Puerto Rico. Being a male and identifying as male. Being Latinx in the context of the United States. Growing up in a military household significantly shapes and influences how I see the world. Being the son, a brother, being an uncle, being educated, and specifically being educated in my undergraduate, master's, and doctoral experiences in the southern region of the United States. Being first-generation college student, identifying as a student affairs practitioner, an educator, a teacher, a trainer, mentee, and mentor in different times of my career and life. I think two other pieces that shape who I am and that will show up, I think, in the way we interact together include being a cancer survivor and being visually impaired. And so these different pieces collectively shape my lens and really inform how I approach this work related to cultural competency and inclusion of others. And so with that brief introduction of who I am, I would like to share a quick presentation overview of what we hope to accomplish with the remainder of our time today. In terms of outcomes, we will talk a little bit about the hopes or the outcomes that we have for our time together in just a few moments. From there, we want to share space and hear from each of you. And so we're going to use the breakout feature in a little bit to engage in some dialogue. We'll give folks about 10 minutes in these breakout rooms, and we'll give you or remind you questions to use to engage with other participants. From there, I will dive into the overview of components related to this particular training series so that everyone has an understanding of where we hope to go over the next couple of sessions. And we also want to share with you a quick view of our Google Classroom so that you can feel comfortable retrieving information and engaging with the materials that we have prepared for all of you today. And then finally, we'll make sure that we have shared our contact information and as well make time for question and answer. Before we go any further, I just wanted to do some quick housekeeping things. Working through Zoom at this point is becoming the norm for many people, but it is good for all of us to be on the same page in terms of the housekeeping or the group norms that we will practice in this space. And so first I want to invite each of you at any point, if you have questions, please post those in our chat room. And we've got fantastic colleagues that will keep an eye on the chat room to make sure that your questions are responded to. Also, please continue to use the mute feature on your Zoom in your panel so that that minimizes distraction and background noise for other participants. Finally, one piece of recommendation that I would like to make is be mindful of how we use time and space. In many conversations related to diversity, inclusion, and cultural competency, it can be topics that are very passionate for many of us and or bring up memories. And when those memories come up, sometimes we can get lost in sharing. And so I encourage us to just be mindful of sharing space and time when we are in breakout rooms and engaging together so that everyone has an opportunity to share and to receive. Last housekeeping piece is I just want to make sure folks are aware that we are recording our session today, which is why I put on a tie and some grown-up clothes in this Zoom world that we are living in. And so just be mindful of that. The last piece that I'll share with us just in terms of engaging together is that I truly believe that there are opportunities that we are presented on our journey that give us an opportunity to receive gifts and give gifts. I hope that you all will engage in both the receiving of gifts from your colleagues and peers that are in this space, but also be prepared to give gifts, the gifts of your story, the gifts of your thoughts and ideas, the gifts of your experiences. I think that when we engage in that way, we do receive or collectively we all grow significantly from spaces or opportunities like this. And so I look forward to what we will learn together. In terms of our session outcomes for today, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I have for all of us in terms of hopes is that we will all be able to see what is in store for us. Would like for us to reflect on and articulate why we are engaging in this activity. Why did you take time out of your busy schedules and lives to connect with your colleagues and peers across the country and overseas to have a conversation about cultural competencies? What's the motivation for you? What do you hope to gain from that space? A second outcome is that I hope that you will identify ways that you will contribute to this learning process and really connect to what you hope to gain from. And so contribution from each of you and what you hope to gain from each of you. And then finally, become familiar with the different components that we have prepared for you over the last couple months before meeting today. And so those are our session outcomes for this overview presentation. And so I want to now kind of shift our time to giving you an opportunity to use your voice. And as I mentioned earlier, practice giving and receiving the gifts that we have for each other in this space. And so the two questions that we shared prior to gathering today, you see here on the screen, include why did you choose to enroll in this particular training session? And what do you hope to bring and to gain from this experience? What I'd love to do at this time is, Leslyn is a fantastic colleague that will help move us into smaller breakout sessions of about 4 to 5 folks. We will engage in this introduction activity for about 10 minutes. And so there'll be approximately 5 folks in each group, which if you do the numbers, gives each person around 2 minutes to respond to these 2 questions. And so again, please make room for each other, share thoughtfully, and we look forward to welcoming you back into the big room once you're done with your introduction activity. Thank you, Leslyn. I hope that that was, I hope you enjoyed your time in your smaller groups, sharing a moment of introduction with everyone. We will continue with our presentation. And so, again, thank you for sharing a bit of your reflections on why you chose to enroll in this particular series and what you hope to bring and to gain from your time in this activity. What I'd like to do now is to move into talking about the components of the series. And so the series that we are presenting to all of you is a 3-part workshop. I'm going to go over each of the workshops, and then we will introduce an opportunity to engage in a study as well related to this particular work. And so the components of the first session, the title of the first session is Cultural Competency in Higher Education. It is designed to be a discussion on helping us connect to the context of higher education and cultural competency. We have 2 presentation options for session 1, and really the September 17th and the September 24th opportunities will help us divide about 92 participants into 2 cohorts so that we can engage in a more meaningful way. We have prepared or included readings ahead of time. And so between now and the September 17th date or the September 24th, we encourage you all to take a look at and include in your schedule an opportunity to review the Cycle of Socialization article. We will in a few moments show you where you access your materials, but just know that you'll have that particular article to read prior to our session. And the other piece of reading for the first session is a historical timeline that really focuses on race and ethnicity for us to engage with. The document is pretty lengthy. You do not have to read every single page. There'll be some instructions to guide you through that activity. My biggest hope for you is of the different dates that we're highlighting through this activity, I would encourage you to maybe select 4 or 5 that stand out to you as meaningful or important, right? And what we'll do is we'll engage in breakout sessions to allow you to share with your colleagues some of those important dates that stand out to you from this historical timeline. The second piece I'd ask you to do with that particular activity is to really look at what themes or consider what themes emerge for you. What do you notice about this collection of dates and key moments in our history related to higher education in America? I'd love to just share a quick caveat that I look at this activity as almost visiting a museum. I'm sure many of us have been to multiple museums, and when you go to a museum, there are different exhibits, and there are curators that are responsible for deciding what period of art gets highlighted, which pieces of art, and how they're arranged in space. What I would offer you about this activity is that the race and ethnicity in American higher education is almost like going to a museum. It is impossible for me or anyone else to capture every single moment related to race and ethnicity. But as a curator of this particular museum exhibit, if you'll allow me to use that analogy, I have carefully thought through and selected a variety of different moments that I want to share with you all. Please know that if there are moments, historical events that you notice are missing, I welcome an email or any outreach from you making suggestions and recommendations on what to add to strengthen this document. But I do hope that we will take this opportunity to use the tool as is for the purpose of this activity, for the purpose of this discussion. We'll talk more about those 2 assignments and send you reminders prior to the September dates. The second series, I apologize. What I wanted to share about each as well are the outcomes for the sessions. And so the outcomes for session 1 focus on hoping to give you more context of higher education in America in terms of race and ethnicity, as we mentioned. I'm excited to introduce you and walk through a theoretical model by Bobby Harrow related to the cycle of socialization. I think that can inform us in some very powerful ways. And thirdly, to increase our awareness, our knowledge related to cultural competency in higher ed. There will be a question that I pose before each session for you to think about. The question for this session is, what ways does cultural competency and inclusion show up in your spaces? Where have you seen it, or where do you feel like there are gaps in cultural competency and inclusion in our professional areas? The second session, the title of the second session is Cultural Competency in Higher Education, and the focus is on administration and academic management. The two dates for that session are in October, the 15th and the 22nd. Again, depending on which cohort you are assigned and works with your schedule, you will attend the appropriate session. The readings for this particular session are divided out based on your job function. And so please know that you'll have access to both readings, but I would encourage you, if you are a staff member or an administrator, to focus on the Pope Reynolds Mueller article related to change. And for faculty, I would encourage you to look at the 2005 article that will be made available to you that focuses on curriculum. And so we will use those articles throughout our session. In terms of outcomes for session 2, my hope is that we will reflect on how cultural competency and inclusion affect or influence our work. We will look at cultural competency specifically in administration and management of academic and workspaces. And finally, we will work to expand our skills and discuss the action or the opportunity for action that each of you have in your roles at institutions across the country and overseas. The question for this session that you will be reminded of later, you don't have to take any notes, but the question that I hope that we will think about prior to our October gathering is, what are the opportunities that you can identify to incorporate cultural competency and inclusion in your practice? The third session, the title of the third session is Cultural Competency in Higher Education. The focus of the third session is on training and teaching, as well as assessment and research. These sessions are scheduled for November. Cohort 1 will meet on November 12th. Cohort 2 will meet on November 19th. Our readings are still to be determined. I have identified a couple of articles, but I want to narrow that down to make sure that they are the right pairing of articles for us. And so we will make sure to send out an announcement once those have been posted to our classroom, our virtual classroom. Our outcomes for session 3 include the hope that we will be able to engage in revisioning our training and revising our training and teaching materials, our sources, and possibly even adding to your philosophy on how you approach training and teaching. And then strive to engage in culturally relevant practice in developing assessment tools and research projects. Now what I'd like to do is to just share with you where you can access some of the materials, the pre-readings, the reminders of questions related to this particular series of presentations. We're going to be using the Google Classroom. All of you have been added to the Google Classroom, and I just wanted to take a moment to walk through the 4 functions that we will be using to help each of us engage with the material that we'll be using during this workshop, during this series. And so if you'll give me just a moment, I will reshare my screen so that we can see a sample or an example of the Google Classroom. And so once you log into the Google Classroom, each of you have already been added to the Google Classroom, thanks to one of our amazing colleagues, Miss Ada, has done that. Across the top, and so let me back up and say the title of the classroom is Cultural Competency and Inclusion Training, Fall 2020. Across the top here, where you see my mouse scrolling, you will see 4 tabs or 4 options. The first is the stream option. The stream option is where we receive announcements, When we send updates, you will see them posted here, as well as receive a message about those. And when you log in, you'll be able to review those announcements. Classwork is where you'll find your reading materials prior to each workshop. And so the only material we had required or requested of you prior to our introduction session was to think about the 2 questions that we engaged with during our breakout session a little earlier. Session 1 has the 2 readings already posted. One is an article and the other is an activity document in PDF format. So readings for session 3 are already posted, and they will be made available on a schedule once we get to that time in our coursework. The 3rd tab up top is entitled People, and this gives you access to being able to reach all of the faculty associated with this series. And so you can receive our contact information, send us messages through the People tab. And then Grades will just give us an option to see where we are. You'll be able to track your progress on the assignments that are asked of each of us. And so hopefully, again, this particular Google Classroom will serve as a good landing spot for each of us to make sure that we have access to announcements, messages, materials, people, and to see how we're doing in our own assignments, completing those assignments. I'd like to pause for just a moment now and invite Dr. Chandler to share a little bit more about a research opportunity that is coming up associated with this particular series. Dr. Chandler?
Thank you. Can you take me to the next slide, I think? So as I mentioned in the beginning, that we are funded by National Science Foundation, and NSF includes, as a regional research collaborative partnership. And so what we do, everything we do, we must generate new knowledge from. And so you're gonna learn, if you attended our last series, you know that you left with a suite of tools that you can apply in your classroom. We intend on doing this very same thing this series, is providing you with tools and strategies that you can apply within your classrooms, within your departments and your divisions. And we wanna know how effective they are. We wanna know if you've seen an improvement within your departments and your classrooms. We wanna know those things. And so for us to really understand how effective these tools and strategies are, we have to research them. We have to test them out. We have to give them a trial. And so we wanna give you an opportunity to put theory to action and to be an active participant within our research study. Because we have such a since we have a very large group, we will do a random selection of participants, and we will invite you, obviously it's optional and voluntary, invite you to apply some strategies and to participate in some activities that Dr. Hernandez has outlined. So some really cultural immersion type of activities, and he'll explain them next. But what we'll like to do is participate in some scholarly engagement together, right? So it may lead to publications, it may lead to presentations at our conference or at other national conferences. And we want you all to share your findings at our conference, those that wish to participate and complete that action-based research. Yeah, that's really it. So you would complete the series, you would be assigned to an additional small cohort of people who would participate in this action-based research, and you would have some additional activities. I don't think they're burdensome at all. I think they're very valuable. And I wish that we could do it with everybody, but there's 97 people enrolled in the certificate program, and there's no way for us to sustain that right now. We will do it again. So if you're not selected or not given an invitation to participate, we will do these activities, we'll do the series again, because we still have people on the wait list. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity. Dr. Hernandez is going to share next about those extra activities, and then I'll close us out after and answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez.
Thank you. And so for the folks, the next few pieces are support pieces that we've designed and engagement pieces that we've designed to help this cohort that Janae mentioned that we will be working with. And so remember that up to this point, all 97 folks are welcomed to engage in the workshops themselves. The following pieces are for a select few that we will be able to engage with for this round. And so the first piece that I'll share with you all is this exposure activity. A cultural exposure activity is designed into this particular series to really help us as individuals go a little bit further than just reading material. One of the models that we will be introduced to throughout the series is the Pope Reynolds Mueller model related to developing cultural competency. There are 4 components of that cultural competency model. The first is increasing our awareness. The second is increasing or sharing knowledge. The third is to work on our skills. And then the fourth is to engage in action. And so this particular aspect of the series engages us in action to give us more of a meaningful experience, if you will. The idea behind the cultural exposure activity is that each person participating would select a marginalized group to engage with. This would allow us to really look at our biases and challenge those biases. The group would need to be, that we select, would need to be a minority, the majority of the people in that group must be from a marginalized group, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. That particular group, we will work together to identify and finalize in a helpful way. I will give you an example of a group. I personally identify as Christian. My family, I was baptized Catholic. My family in Puerto Rico is very Catholic. For me, I would not be able to engage with another Christian-based organization for this activity, right? But if the majority of the people in a marginalized group that I choose are of a different faith structure, possibly Judaism or of Muslim faith, I would be able to engage with that group because it is different than where my orientation, where I come from. The second aspect of this activity is that this should expose you to a situation in which your perspectives are in the minority. That's why I would not be able to visit my sisters, brothers, and siblings in a Baptist church or in a Seventh-day Adventist church, because the foundation of those religions are still based in Christianity. And so we will work through other examples to give you a sense of what type of activity or what type of group would be appropriate for you based on your journey. The second piece is that the activities that you engage in should focus on the group's turf. And what it means is that it really needs to be us going to engage on their terms, if you will. The third aspect of this is that activity should be a totally new experience. And so if you have dabbled in different cultures or in different identities, that would not necessarily be one to continue working with. It should be a new experience, or maybe a new aspect of that experience. And then the final piece, well, there are a couple more. Plan to invest at least 5 hours in this activity. And we have scheduled for us to engage between the months of October and through December. And so we believe that 5 hours across that amount of time should be reasonable for us to engage. This could also mean, if we're looking at a minimum of 5 hours, that we're going to engage in more than just one event or one meeting. And so that's important in terms of planning ahead. Finally, just a statement about safety as we interact with folks. We know that with COVID-19 and the pandemic around our globe, that we need to be mindful of how we connect with folks and how we engage. And so we will definitely connect to talk about how we can do this in a safe manner for ourselves and for communities that we meet with, that we will be able to learn from. And so that's the exposure activity. We'll definitely talk more about that for the folks that move on to work with this particular part of the research. The second piece that I will share is that there'll be 2 consultations with me set for individuals that are using or going through this part of the program. We will schedule, based on your availability, about a 30-minute session. The first consultation will focus on finalizing this cultural exposure activity and give us an opportunity to debrief the first 2 workshops that you had attended at that point. And so we'll probably begin these 30-minute sessions in the month of October and early November to give you an opportunity to engage in your cultural exposure activity. The next piece of the series for this population would be the capstone presentation. And this capstone presentation would truly be designed to capture some of the summary of learning, key learning that has happened throughout your journey in this series. This would come from your reflections, the questions that we've posed prior to each session. It would come from the readings, the workshops, the exposure activity, and our one-on-one sessions. And so this capstone presentation will give you an opportunity to kind of summarize some of the themes and the learning that come from your participation. Creativity is encouraged, and we're hoping that you will use your creativity to highlight the key takeaways, not just from this experience, but also talk about what is your plan to invest in your further development and your further cultural competency in the future. This particular part of the program would not be due until February of 2021. In the month before, January, we would have an opportunity to engage in our second consultation, which would be designed to debrief our cultural exposure activity that would have happened between October and December, and then to finalize the outline for your capstone presentation. My goal is to serve as a coach and an ally as you explore these 2 aspects of the journey related to this series. Again, the capstone presentation would be facilitated in February of 2021. From here, some of you may be thinking, well, Miguel, what's next? What do we need to prep for our September gathering? What I would share is that, as I demonstrated or showed you in our introduction activity, or excuse me, in the Google Classroom, there is an assignment already prepared for each of you based on which cohort you're in, for you to upload your bio, a brief bio, and your photo into a program called Padlet. I wanted to use this particular program to also introduce you to a resource that you may be able to use in your own coursework and in your own programs and strategies at work to continue engaging people in relationship building and in community building. That, I think, is a key component of cultural competency and inclusion work. And so I'm excited to share Padlet with each of you and give you an opportunity to engage with the resource and the value of that particular tool. The second piece that I would engage or encourage you to engage with is accessing the Bobby Harrell article related to the cycle of socialization. We will dig more into the theory itself, the model, and provide some examples to help that particular theoretical piece come to life. The third aspect is the review of the Race and Ethnicity American Higher Education activity. Again, that document I mentioned is already uploaded to Google Classroom, and you'll be able to, and hopefully, select up to 5 dates that stand out to you, and then think about, as you're reading through that document, what are the themes that emerge? What are the messages that show up? What stands out to you overall? Those 2 aspects of that document will be what we use when we get together in conversation. The last piece I want to prep you for is that we will engage with a pre and post assessment of each workshop. And so you will be prompted to complete a pre-assessment of a few questions before we start our presentation of session 1. And then just after that particular workshop, we will send you a post-assessment for you to complete. And we look forward to hearing from you how those sessions go, what you gain from those sessions during the pre and post-assessment tools. With that said, I want to just again share the contact information with each of you on how to reach us, and just remind or share again how thrilled and excited I am to get to work with each of you through our workshop, and also for those of you that engage in the research aspect of this presentation. I look forward to getting to know each of you and engaging through our consultation work and learning from your experiences over the next couple of months. With that said, I would love to yield the floor back to the amazing Janae Chandler for some wrap up and to guide us in question and answer.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. We're going to open this up to, if you have any questions, you could put it in the chat. We have about 5 minutes. One thing that we do with our trainings is honor your time. We will start on time and end on time. So if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat real quick, or you can raise your hand and we can acknowledge you. Will I also be able to earn the certificate? So if you attend or complete the Google session assignments, what we've done in our last series, if you either participated fully online through the Google Classroom assignments, or you attended at least 2 in-person sessions, live sessions, you received a certificate of participation. What are we seeking in the bio? Can you elaborate on the number of words? We're not really concerned on the number of words. It's like it's a Padlet. You can do, I believe there's some video too. You can just speak if you wish. You can write, I believe, on there, but we would like for you to go ahead and kind of do a brief video, just introducing yourself. Since we traditionally would be in the same classroom, or this was supposed to be a part of our conference, we would be in person, able to engage. So we want to give you an opportunity to get to know one another. And so whatever you feel comfortable with sharing, how much or how little, we'll leave that up to you. But I think some basics would be your name, where you're from, what institution, what you do. I think that should be the minimum, but no pressure. Any other questions? I just want to clarify some things that I saw flip through earlier. So the cohorts, like I said, we have nearly 100 people registered. We had to divide everyone up. So I will send out an email today with where you are placed. Everyone should have their preferences for the most part. We will also send you out Zoom information. A number of you indicated that you could only participate via recording because of scheduling, and that's fine. We'll have the recordings and the slides in the Google Classroom after every class, and you can participate via the Google Class. You have all of our email addresses, and you can always email us any questions. Anybody else? I can't see everybody on one screen. Hang on. Okay, well, we are done for the day. Dr. Hernandez, this means you did a great job. The core team here will remain on the call until 11. So if you have any questions you want to ask amongst a smaller group, we'll be on here. But other than that, thank you for attending. We look forward to having you during this series. We have some exciting things planned, and I'm just so grateful that you're investing time in your professional development and that you're trusting us with providing this professional development to you. Higher education is getting more and more diverse, and it's just important that we are equipped with tools and strategies to ensure our students are successful. So just thank you so much for trusting us with this opportunity.